Hello and welcome to my knitting podcast. My name is Merete and I'm speaking to you from Denmark. This is my 6th episode and I have something really great planned for you to talk about today. So it's not gonna be about just finished objects and whips and what else, but I have a topic planned out. And there's also a few other things I would like to talk about, but first of all, let me just tell you a bit about the topic I have decided for. I want to talk about how to make adjustments of yarn and needle size for a pattern. It's been kind of weird for me to kind of give this a title that really works, because what I mean is that I would like to show you that if you are interested in a pattern you want to knit, but you have some other yarn or yarn weightness, or you like to knit with other kind of needles, how you can manage to still knit the pattern and get a really good result. I've tried a few times now, and a friend of mine has tried this method, and I would just want to share that with you so you have that in your toolbox. I should hurry up and say that I'm not like a real professional, so what I say is always something that you should consider, like how valid it is. But as you know, the ones that have followed me a few times now, is that my podcast is about sharing the experiences that I have with knitting, and like if I can inspire anybody else in doing something similar, why should I keep it to myself? So that's why I decided this topic today. And I'm wearing my Soldotna crop top that I talked about last time I wanted to knit, and this is a really good example to show for this topic. So I'm gonna walk through how I did this crop top by adjusting to the pattern to the yarn I wanted to use, and also did some changes to the colorworks, and I want to show or tell about how I did that as well. And I also have another topic planned out that I'm gonna talk about in my next episode. Is a plan right now, and the topic will be about how to use leftover yarns. If you also have followed me for a while, you know that my stash is almost only consists of like one skein or half a skein, or a lot of different leftovers, you might say. And I use my yarn kind of like paint, especially when I want to knit with more than one thread. I usually just have fingering weight yarn or lace weight yarn or mohair yarn. So if I'm looking for a thicker weight, I will just like knit with 2 or 3 threads, and then I can kind of put threads together that makes the color I want, if that makes sense. So I kind of blend my yarn like if you would blend paint for a painting, and I want to talk more about that in my next podcast. I think that's gonna be really fun too. Yes. And then I realized after my last episode that I wasn't really being real good at structuring these podcasts in a matter where I knew what I've been talking about previously, so I wouldn't talk about it again. And I think it was in episode 4 or 5. I think I talked a lot about my fringes and pearls sweater design, and it was, I just have to apologize because I did talk a lot about it in episode 1, and it must be a drag to look at that again. So sorry about that, and I will try not to do that again. And to help me organize it more, I bought a notebook where I can look up all the things that I've been talking about in my episodes, so I won't repeat myself as much. And yeah, and that's actually a really fun thing to use a notebook, because as you know, I don't sit very well in front of a computer screen, so sitting with a notebook and can just grab it and write my thoughts of what I want to do. It becomes more fluid, and so I really enjoy that. So this is my notes for today. So I'm gonna look a little more down today to look in my book, so I managed to say what I planned. Yes. And also, I don't know if it may sounded like a big commercial that I was talking so much about the fringes and pearls sweater, but I really don't want this podcast to be about a commercial for my own design, so I'm sorry about that. I won't talk more about that sweater today. Yes, and then a few times ago I was really sad about some things in life, and there is an approach that I've started to live by, mantra or whatever you would call it, that I also like to share with you today. How would I say this? It's like this. I have a really low, I have a battery with energy like everybody else does, but my battery doesn't charge more than like 20% during a night, so I have very limited energy during a day, and I really have to think about what things that I can put into my calendar, and especially how many things. And and that's like just activities I'm talking about. And then I found out that that my battery get really fast drained if I am surrounded by negativity, like bad news in television, or like sad thoughts about my own career and future and all that. And so I kind of have started living by this mantra, or whatever you would call it, that I want to think positive, I want to be happy, I don't want to spend my energy on worries and things like that. And I think actually I might look a bit happier today than I used to, because I don't spend much time thinking about sad things. And I know you might think, why can she? How is that even possible? But in my situation, because I have so little energy on my energy, I just can't afford using my energy on something that drains it too fast. So in order to be a happy person around my 2 girls and my husband, and just have a daily life where I feel some kind of excitement about the things that I do, then that's what I have to do. So I don't know, it feels really, really good actually, because there's so much negativity around you in your daily life and in the world, and it feels good to just think about positive things. So if that's inspiring to you, that you're welcome to use that. And then I also have something else I want to do before I get started on my topic today. I have received a lot of new subscribers to my podcast, and I recently was recommended by a Danish podcaster. Her name is Henriette Hald, and she has a podcast called Strik and Sludder. Strik og Sludder. And so many of these new subscribers I've had is Danish. So if you don't mind, I want to switch over to Danish for a few seconds to approach those new subscribers. So stay tuned and maybe you'll have fun listening to Danish. Okay, ja, det er jo totalt nyt for mig at tale på dansk. Det er faktisk lidt sjovt. Men altså, jeg er nødt til bare lige at tale direkte til jer nye abonnenter af min podcast. Det har simpelthen været så overvældende at få så mange nye abonnenter på ingen tid. Og I har bare været så søde med vildt mange positive og glade kommentarer. Så altså, jeg er fuldstændig overvældet over, hvad vores strikke community, eller hvad hedder fællesskab, det kan give. Sådan en lille henvisning. Jeg har jo kun for nylig begyndt at se Henriettes podcast, og jeg er begyndt at blive sådan en trolig seer hver fredag, fordi at jeg elsker simpelthen bare at sidde og kigge på Henriette, og hun taler jo om hendes strik og alt hvad der ellers sker omkring hende og hendes personlige situation, og hun er jo bare simpelthen så åben og ærlig og lige frem i hendes, det hun fortæller om, og hendes holdninger og så videre. Og der bliver også bandet ind imellem, og jeg synes simpelthen det er så forfriskende. Og altså og det at hun har givet mig den her henvisning, jeg har bare lyst til at række ud gennem det her cyber medier og bare give hende et kæmpe stort kram. Så tusind tak, Henriette, hvis du også kigger med her nu her. Det har været simpelthen så skønt at møde en ny cyberveninde, hvis man kan sige det sådan. Vi har også haft skrevet lidt sammen på Messenger og givet hinanden tips og glæde igennem den vej. Så det er simpelthen bare så dejligt at møde nye mennesker den her vej. Og det bekræfter mig bare i, hvor fedt det er at være strikker i dagens verden, fordi vi har de her sociale medier, og vi kan tale til hinanden ud gennem tv-skærmene og være sammen med hinanden og dele vores strikkeoplevelser og inspirere hinanden, og det er bare så fantastisk. Og til jer, som så er nye, som hvis I ikke skulle have set min tidligere podcast, det tror jeg, I har, fordi der er sket rimelig meget på seerantallet på min podcast. Men hvis I ikke skulle, så har jeg jo lavet de her podcast, fordi at jeg har et rimelig skørt hoved, og det synes jeg jo bare, hvorfor skulle jeg ikke dele med andre mennesker, hvad jeg går og finder på og tænker på. Og hvis jeg så kan inspirere andre til at gøre noget på en anden måde, end de plejer at gøre, eller til at gøre noget, til at vælge nogle projekter, nogle nye projekter, så vil jeg da gerne kunne gøre det. Og lige så vel så opfordrer jeg jo også rigtig meget mine seere til at fortælle mig, hvis der er et eller andet, som I tror, jeg kunne være interesseret i at høre om. Så endelig skriv til mig, hvis der er noget, I tænker, det er der noget, hun lige bør vide noget om. Ja. Men altså, tusind tak, fordi I er hoppet på den her vogn her, og nu håber jeg jo, jeg kan leve op til jeres forventninger her. Og så nu tror jeg vil smide over på engelsk igen, så vi kan fortsætte med dagens emne. Tusind tak og god fornøjelse. Yes, so I'm back in English. That was a really fun experience to talk a bit in Danish, but actually really nice too. So let's talk about the topic now. I've been talking 15 minutes about nothing. Oh, sorry, about nothing but knitting. But this podcast is about knitting, so let's talk about that. Yes. I'm gonna walk through how I did this Soldotna crop top. I'm just gonna stand up so you can see how it looks. You might have seen it on Instagram. But this is like how it looks in real life. And when I saw the design, there's so many pictures on Instagram on this design. If you look up hashtag Soldotna Crop, I think that's the hashtag, you will find really many different kinds of tops, and they are just amazing. I think more than 3,000 people has knitted this by now, so it's quite popular. So I've been following it for a while, and it's not typical me to knit like other patterns like this, but I got more and more curious to knit this because I haven't really done that much of color work before. So I wanted to try that out, and then in September or something like that, I saw a version with some kittens on it. It was knitted more like a Halloween version, and the Instagrammer, I just forgot what her name is, but I can write it down here. She was making like a Halloween version of this top with cats here, and then later down at the bottom she put skulls on it, I think. So that was really neat. So I was like, how did you do that? And she was like, that's really easy. So we talked a bit about that, and that's kind of formed the idea that I wanted to do that as well. And I'm a cat person, so of course I needed a cat picture, and you can't even see it today, but I actually got my own cat by me today. I can just turn the camera down maybe. You see him? Yeah, so he joined me today, and you might understand why I chose gray cats. I'm just gonna adjust the camera a bit. So my thoughts was turning around this cat change in the pattern, and also about the yarn that I wanted to choose, because the pattern called for DK weight yarn, and I don't know, it just didn't really appeal to me that I would knit a short sleeve crop top that would be so thick that I wouldn't be able to wear it in the summer. So I was planning on using this thinner yarn, and I talked about the yarns in my last episode, so I'm not going to talk that much about it here. But I did a swatch, and it said I was supposed to get a gauge on 22 stitches, and I had 24 stitches, and I actually used almost the same needle size for the pattern. I think it said, oh, I can't remember now, 3.75 millimeters, and then I can't remember the US size, but then I ended up using 4 millimeters, which is a US 6. And for the neckline I wanted to use 3.5 millimeters, which is a US 4. So I had this wrong gauge according to pattern, and so what I found is that there is this app that you can download. It's called Crochet and Knit, and it's an Android app. I don't know if it's for iPhone. I will write down here the name of it so you can see it as well. And if you use this app, it has this really cool feature where it can tell you how many stitches you're supposed to cast on if your gauge is off. But first, before you use this app, you need to decide on what size you want to knit. So according to the fit that I wanted, I was supposed to knit what was in the pattern called a size 3, and because my gauge was 24 instead of 22 stitches, it would be too small if I knitted it that way. So I opened this app, and now I'm just gonna tell you what I did. I went to Tools, and then I went to Calculator under Tools, and then under Calculator I chose number of stitches, and then you get to this page where you enter your number of stitches from your gauge. So mine was 24. Then there is the patterns gauge you enter, which it was 22, and then I have to enter the stitch cast on, the amount of stitches I'm supposed to cast on, and this refers to the size I was supposed to knit, which was size 3. So this pattern said that I was supposed to cast on 96 stitches if the gauge was right. And then it says underneath, you must cast on 104 stitches. And then I go in and look at the pattern and see if there's another size that almost fit this stitch count. And then I could see that size 5 was the one that got the closest to this stitch count. So that told me that I could knit a size 5, and then I could follow the pattern, and I would get my size. Pretty cool, right? So, and this is the app that I've used once before, and a friend of mine has used it as well with great success. So that's kind of why I think that it's appropriate to talk about here. There is just one thing that I didn't calculate for when I did this. Because, and I'm just gonna pause this for a second. So there's this chart that you have to follow. I don't know if it was just really quick, I showed it, but it's knitted downwards and up, well, from here and then down, of course. And then when you get to the end of this chart, there's no further increases. So and when you get to the top, the end of the chart, you're also supposed to do the parting for the sleeves. And I was supposed to stop my when I knitted for the size 5, I was supposed to stop here for the pattern, something like that, and then part for the shoulders. But then, because the stitches are smaller, my yoke wasn't large enough. I have to knit my yokes has to be around 21 centimeters. I don't know the inch number, but so, and I only had like 19 centimeters, so I needed a few more centimeters before parting for body and sleeves. So what I did was that I continued the pattern, just repeated the same pattern for a few more rows and made these longer. And if you have a smaller size, you're supposed to stop even further up. So that's why when you see examples on Instagram, you might see that these bars or panels, they have a really different lengths on the different pictures, and that's because these kind of determine the size of the pattern you have knitted. So smaller size would go here and a larger size would go here. And what else? Yes, I also had to, when I parted for sleeves and body, I was I didn't have stitches enough, so my sleeves would have been so small that I couldn't fit my arm through it. So what I did was that it said that I had to cast on 15 stitches underneath my arm and body, and instead I casted on 23 stitches, 8 more stitches that I could keep on following the colorwork pattern, which needed 4 stitches. These small ones, they needed 4 stitches. So I casted on 8 stitches so I could repeat that colorwork pattern twice more under each arm. And I managed to make it just fit right. You can see here it's a bit wide here, but I think it doesn't really matter. And I was lucky enough that this part wouldn't get too big. It still fits me quite nicely. It doesn't fit, looks too big on me. So, and I think I was kind of lucky actually at this point. But that's what you can do if you feel that it doesn't work quite right. And that's a good thing about knitting it from upside down, is that you can adjust it by trying it on and see, okay, I need a bit more rounds before parting, or I need more stitches under the arms, and it's totally fine to do it that way. Yes, and I thought that was kind of neat. So I'm just looking at my notes. There are some patterns where you can't use this technique. There are patterns, and I found I'm not sure I have examples other than Stephen West, so I'm gonna talk about his patterns for a while, because he tend to make patterns where where the sizes are determined by your gauge. So he has one design, the same amount of stitches for each size, same places you make increases for every size. Everything is the same in the pattern, but the differences happens by choosing different yarns and needle sizes. So for instance, if you want a small size, you go small needles with maybe just a fingering weights yarn, and if you want a larger size, then you go with DK weight, Aran weight, or even like 2 strands of fingering weights and maybe a bigger needle size. And that's how he does with patterns like the Penguno and Enchanted Mesa. And so in these patterns you can't use this technique. But what I really like about this technique is that you're able to deviate from what the pattern says you have to use of yarn and needles, and that's kind of also what I really like about knitting, is the freedom that I can find a pattern I like, and I can find the yarn that I like, and I have this much experience now that I can usually tell what needle size I need for what yarn, or I make a swatch and see how loose do I want the stitches to be, or how firm do I want the stitches to be. and then from then on I can knit from a pattern. I guess it's because I'm not that I haven't knitted like for many years like this intensive as I do today, because I know a lot of knitters, they have been used to having to buy patterns together with yarn, and I did that earlier, and I think that's kind of why I didn't find knitting as fun, because I was limited in my creativity. So I really want to stand out from that perspective. It struggles inside of me if I have to use a certain yarn because the pattern says I have to. Then I'm probably not gonna knit the pattern, or I'm gonna do my own. And I'm definitely not gonna buy a pattern together with a yarn. That's just not how I feel comfortable. So it's gonna kill me through the project. So I'm not going to do that. And I see more and more designers letting their patterns free from this approach. And I think it's a really good idea, especially if you use Ravelry to publish your design in. Because I think you get a lot of customers anyway this way. So yeah, I think that's my thoughts on that. And then I also want to show you this book that I have. This one is in Danish, but the author is English, and the pattern is original in English. Her name's Anne Bott, and I think it's in English. It's called Sweaters Knitted Upside Down, or just Sweaters Upside Down. This book is actually pretty awesome because it has different types of sweaters described, how you knit them upside down, with like in a round, or with raglan or contiguous, and so on. And it also it's like a manual kind of for any kind of yarn, any kind of needles, any kind of pattern you want. It's kind of like a way to help you knit more freestylish. So it does give you like a pattern. It has I can try and show you a bit of it. I don't know if I can show you so much because of all these rules that are out there, but like this is a custom page and got a lot of columns in it. But what it says is it has some sizes up here. So you determine what size you want to knit. And then down here, this is one instruction, like in a pattern. This is one instruction, this is one instruction, this is one instruction. And under here, this table shows that if you have this gauge, and you go into the pattern here, and I'm choosing this size, this is the number of stitches I want to, if this was the instruction cast on, it would tell me how many stitches to cast on. And then maybe it says in the next instruction, you have to increase this much stitches. And then it says, if you have this gauge and this size, you have to cast on this many stitches. And then it keeps going on for every size, or every instruction and every gauge. There's like gauges 12, 16, 20, 24, and 28. And yeah, and so this is very helpful if you want to freestyle. Like I have a design in mind now that kind of looks like this one in a round, but with much thicker yarn. And I could make swatches and try and decide how many stitches I wanted and do that, but I can also just see what my swatch says, and if it says like 12 stitches, I can go in here and look how many stitches I have to cast on, and it will tell me when to make increases at how many rows and so on and so on. And it will also tell me where to make the increases depending on if I'm making a raglan or just a round one and so on. And it also has some patterns in here that for these models that are shown that are more easy to go to. So it's a really neat book, and I use it to get inspired on my stitches and to get control of the situation, you might say. So I can recommend that book. Yes, that's the sizes. And then I want to talk a bit about the color work here, because I decided to do kittens or cat faces. And I found this, well, that's another good thing about this knitting community I was talking earlier about. A Fair Isle designer I met at Fanø. I talked about her in episode 5, and I asked her if there were any apps or something that she could recommend in doing these drawing these colorworks schemes, and she recommended a website called stitchfiddle.com. I will write that here. And so what I did is I went into this program on my computer, and I drew in this chart. I'm going to show you quick that. And then I did alterations. So I got the cat, and I changed where I wanted the colors, and so actually changed a bit in the color scheme. And what's cool about this program is that if I want to change the color from pink to red, I decide to use another yarn, I can just go in and add that color and make it change all the small squares where it's pink to red. And then I can kind of see how does the colors interact with each other and actually help me if I chose the right colors. So you can kind of see that it looks the same as my sweater. I hope it's okay that I show this pattern. That's also always a worry if you tell too much, more than you're supposed to, but I hope it's okay. Otherwise I can't really show how I did this. But it was this middle section that I just erased all the squares, and then I kind of just fiddle in a cat face and to see should the eyes be a little up or down or closer to each other, and how about the ears. And so I could fit it in here, so I knew that I could knit a cat face if I had it fitted into here, which is pretty cool. So the only thing that I'm kind of curious in doing this again with something I design on my own, but the design Soldotna Crop is designed by Caitlin Hunter, and she has planned in where the increases are supposed to be so it fits the pattern. Like, she wouldn't make an increase in the middle of this section with the cat faces here. That would look odd. So I think that's kind of something to be curious about. How do you plan where to make the increases in colorworks so it fits the patterns? And she did a really nice job. So yes. Yeah. I think that's what I want to talk about with colorworks. I hope you get inspired now by doing it yourself. The pattern is on Ravelry and it's in English, so yeah. And I'm actually these colors are quite bright, but I just really love how it turned out. And I have this pink shirt with these cool details that I was almost going to throw out the other day because I never use it, but I'm really happy I didn't, because it's really cool with this Soldotna top, and yeah, I'm gonna definitely use it a lot. And because it's more thin, because of the yarn has a smaller weight, I think I will be able to wear it a lot in the summertime with no long sleeves underneath. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. And another thing that is kind of something I want to emphasize here is that I have a really hard time knitting with gray colors, and I wanted to try out how it was in this project. And this gray color that I found has a lot of pink and lime speckles to it, and I can easily show it here at the bottom. And I have started to developing a totally different view on gray colors, or maybe I just love this particular colorway. It's from Chaos Yarn, and it's called Night Fever, I think. All my the yarns that I use in my projects, all of those are updated on my Ravelry page. So if you want to know the colorways or who did them, you could go and look it up there. Yes, and I think that was all I want to say about this. I'm actually a bit tired in my head right now, but I have some finished objects I want to show you. Just gonna take a glass of water. And one of them is my biggest pride and joy of the moment. You might know what I'm talking about. It's a Starflake by Stephen West, and if you don't want to see how it turns out, you have to close your eyes for a few minutes. But this is mine. And I really hope you can see how it has a lot of glitter in it and sparkle. It turned out just the way I wanted it, as a tribute to Prince in purple and gold colors. And I have been wearing this shawl a lot over a coat I have. I just wear it like this, actually I just put it like this. Sorry, it looks a little confusing, but a smaller part here. And then I just start wrapping it around. It doesn't work for me when I'm so close to the screen. Oh, it works. And I also knitted a little eye, which Prince uses a lot in his lyrics and videos and all kind of places. So I needed an eye on mine. Can you tell how it glitters? I hope so. And I deviated from the pattern when I got to the border. I wasn't really too keen on knitting a round, like getting these round points or whatever you would call it, as it's a star. I wanted it to keep being a star to the way bottom. And then the section 3 stopped here, right under this part, and then I was supposed to knit and garter stitch from here to here, but I repeated one more stockinette panel, or a few more rows of those, so it looked like the other ones here. And then I added this fisherman ribs to the border, and I think it looks really pretty. And it actually has this really comfortable shape that is easy to wear as a scarf. And it's, I don't know, I just love it. And there has been so many different beautiful versions out there. It's so amazing to see how just different colors can change the appearance totally. And in a way, you know, the best projects are the ones you kind of want to knit again. And this is definitely one of those that I would consider knit again. I probably never will, because I don't want to, I'm too busy. I need to move on to something new, but just that it is something that I really, really liked. When it's something I really, really like, I usually want to knit it again, but I never do. But I hope you know what I mean. And I love that I made these decisions of using mohair yarn in some of the parts. It just makes it so pretty. And it's not really, there's also some blue colors in it. I mean, so it's not purple all the way, but it's purple enough for me. So I'm really happy about that shawl. And behind me, you probably noticed the green sweater that I was talking about the last time. And I'm just gonna pull it forward, so one moment. And it's finished. And it fits me perfectly. And now, of course, I have to lift it up, otherwise you won't be able to see it. And this is how it turned out. It's a little bit longer than a crop sweater, but it's really comfortable to wear. I've been wearing it a lot, and it just got the perfect fit on my on the sleeves, with the size, the width of the sleeves and the width of the body, and it's just perfect. The only thing that I should have done something differently was to make short rows in the back to make the neckline a bit higher, like this. That would have been a more pretty fit, but I decided not to do it because I didn't really know how to make these bubbles, how to work them if I was to make short rows shaping around the neckline. So, but it's okay. It's not going to be a pattern, this one, but I did write everything down that I did with it, and just because it's, I don't know, I had written everything on notes, and it was like one day I just felt like typing it into a computer and see if I could do it. But my big issue about making patterns is still the work that it requires to get it out in different sizes. Yeah, that kind of has taken my breath away. So, and so I might make these cool sweaters, but I don't know. At the moment, I won't publish them as patterns. Yeah, that's just how it is. I have written down on Ravelry what yarn I'm using, and so you can see more pictures of it. Yes. And I don't have much more to tell, but I do have some projects that I'm working on right now that I could share, because yeah, the cat doesn't like me moving around on things. I had decided not to knit any Christmas presents for anybody, but then I just decided to do it anyway. And because I don't know if they might be watching this podcast, I don't think I'm gonna share it at this time anyway. But after Christmas I can share what it is. But I have 2 sweaters that I want to start working on pretty soon, and one of them is the Enchanted Mesa. I was showing yarn in a previous episode, and I have started planning out the yarns, and I'm going to be making swatches pretty soon to figure out what the needle size should be, and if I should carry 1 or 2 strands of yarn. And yeah, so that's one that I will cast on pretty soon. And then I have another sweater design of a more thicker yarn, and that's a totally story on its own. I don't have a lot of heavier weight yarn than fingering weight yarn in my stash. I have a few, but not a lot. And those yarns keep confusing me because in my mind there is not that many weights of yarn. There is a lace weight, and there is fingering weight, and then there is something heavier weight. But this something heavier weight is like 4 different heavier weights kinds. And I guess there's a learning point there, but I have started to putting my heavier weight yarns into the stash on Ravelry to see if I can like make that help me a bit, because you can sort out, I have a project of this weight, what yarns do I have in my stash, and so I can get an overview of my yarns. I don't have that many yarns, so I have already put them all on Ravelry except for a few. But for some reason it just doesn't quite work for me still. Yeah, so a project I've planned out is using DK weight yarn and maybe what is called Aran weight, and probably just mix it all in one project and not worry that whole much about it. Not Aran weight, it's called worsted weight, I think. DK and worsted weight are the 2 types. And I want to try out and make some color work, and yeah, I'm not gonna show you that much of it right now because it's so early in my thoughts that it might not even become anything. Yes. And then I can show you something that I'm working on. I did a few episodes back, I was talking about hats I've been knitting. The waving hat, and Stephen had a sale recently, and I bought the snow florist hat. So I've started to knitting one, and this is how far I'm at right now. And this one is actually a really good appetizer for my next episode, because I have been mixing 2 yarns together to get the color I want. And in this part here, I'm actually mixing a mohair with it, mohair and a lace weight yarn with a fingering weight yarn to get the right color and fluffiness. So an appetizer is the black part is there's one that is a hand dyed yarn, and then I wanted to tone it to be more black, so I added black yarn. And the yarns that I usually blend are a cheap yarn together with a more expensive yarn, and then in that way make the more expensive yarn last longer. And then to see how it works together, you can twist it, and you can see how kind of it looks when it's knitted up. But you can also do swatches. And the same with the red one. There is a more bright red together with a more autumn color red. And then this one is a bright neon yellow together with a lace weight yarn that I used in my daughter's fringes and pearls, which is this more like, you can't tell, but it's got like a light pinkish color to it. So it got this little bit of pink to it, and then white mohair too, so it would be more fluffy. And the reason for these colors I've chosen here is that I wanted something that went well with a orange coat that I bought just before I went to the Faroe Islands, and a shawl that I knitted of Stephen West, the color craving shawl. Actually, I'm just gonna find that so I can show it to you. Hi, and then I just made sure I haven't talked about this before in previous episodes. So you can see this is my color craving shawl, and it got the same black and forest reds and also these neon yellows in it. So I just wanted something that would go with it. So I think that's gonna be really cute. See? So that's gonna be really good. I'm happy with that. And actually I love this color craving shawl, and it got many people don't know really how to wear it, and I found one that always works for me. So this is how you put on the color craving shawl. I'm giving it a go. So over the head with the wide part. Now I just tried it before. So you put the long part underneath, turn it around, and the other part here, do the same. And then you can, if you want to, you can tie a knot of these two underneath, but then you have this beautiful part in front. So this is how I like to wear it, and it's really easy sometimes just to put it on. So yep. Moving on to something else. My daughter has this Christmas sweater that I bought for her last Christmas, and the sleeves are getting too short. So something I'm working on now, I'm probably gonna do it to more of her sweaters, because she's growing so fast that she outwears things and doesn't get it worn that much. So I've added some cuffs. This one is just from last night, so I haven't completely finished it. But I'm working on the other side, and I'm gonna probably also extend the length of it. And that was something that it's really boring for me to make it, but she gets so happy. She almost was crying yesterday because I was like, okay, are we going to throw it out or what? I had already planned for her to knit them. So, and she got really happy that I could extend the sleeves, and she can wear it one more year, or maybe even longer. I could save some of the yarn and then extend the sleeves next year as well. Yeah, so that is the project I'm also working on right now. Yes, I think we got through everything. Sorry about the color craving shawl. I hadn't really planned on talking about that shawl, and so if I had, then I could have been more prepared. That's how it goes. I've been through all my notes here, and so I really hope that you liked what you saw today. And as always, if you like what you see, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my podcast if you want to get notified when I upload a new one. And the next podcast will probably not go that long before I make that, but I won't make any promises, but maybe a few weeks or less than a month, I think, at least, because I'm pretty excited to get going on that podcast. So this is Friday today, so I think I can say to you, have a really wonderful weekend, and happy knitting. Bye bye.